Hey everyone, Alex Italander here, and before we dive into the next Behind the Ostium, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about our Ostium Season 6 Indiegogo campaign. Thanks to the Ostium Patreon, we're able to pay Team Ostium for their work, whether it's voice acting, sound design, editing, or artwork. With our Indiegogo campaign, our goal is to pay our whole team fairly, and you can help make that happen in two ways. One, by supporting the campaign. There are a variety of awards, from sticker packs to postcards to notebooks to signed copies of the Ostium book, and access to a brand new miniseries just for the campaign. And two, by sharing the Indiegogo link with friends, family, and through your social media and telling everyone about this campaign and why you want it to succeed. You can find the link in the show notes to this episode or by going to indiegogo.com and searching for Ostium Podcast. You can also find it on our social media pages. Okay, that's enough of me. Thanks for your help, and let's get on with the new Behind the Ostium.
Okay, so let's move on then to the Season 1 finale. A Crack in the Edge of the World Part 1. The title is all about the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. It's a book by Simon Winchester, which I've enjoyed reading. And but because we have a big earthquake going on in Ostium, I thought it would be a cool title to use. I knew I wanted this to be a part 1 and then have the part 2 be the start of the second season, so that it was going to end on a sort of cliffhanger again, and then you'd get the resolution in the start of the next season. So you have this big devastating earthquake that changes Ostium completely, rips it apart, and then you have them needing to then get to the next door and find a way to get to the bottom of the rift that's created there. And it requires them to have to find a new door, which turns out to be under the bed that totally wasn't there 2 minutes ago. So it's the start of them having to overcome challenges, but also Ostium starting to work with them a bit to kind of work in sync in a way and show that they really are connected.
The part I liked the part where Monica confesses what she did with the soldiers, sending them through an Ostium door. Mm-hmm. Probably a door they could not get back through, we're assuming. Mm-hmm. And since they were not chosen by Ostium to go through the door, I would assume the Banshee was ready and waiting
to consume them.
Yes. And I wrote that I did like how the map table is mirrored. The crack is mirrored in the actual landscape of Ostium.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it was almost a little bit like a voodoo doll or something, you know.
And I'm trying to think of another word for that, but the two are, one is making the other change, and at this point I'm not sure which was which.
Right. Yeah. Well, again, it's showing that they are just as connected as just as part of each other, and so you got to show how they affect each other too. I think again that was Monica wanted to get stuff off her chest, reveal the secrets. Me, as I was writing it, wanting to know why one of the soldiers had just shown up dead in the previous episode, and kind of find out what the story was behind that, and then realizing that was Monica's story. The point too there is that she then has her own guilt over what she did to those men, even though they were after her, trying to get her, and what they'd done also to Steve and leaving him there. She was angry at them, but also she now had guilt over that, just as Jake has this developing guilt over what is possibly happening as they go through doors and the people are gone. So they both have their own demons they're fighting, essentially. In some cases, literally, as their banshees.
Good analogy. So, the door that they find in the
under the bed,
the fissure, takes them to the fissure.
Yeah.
And then the door takes them to Jake's office building where he worked.
Mm-hmm. Right. Again, I wanted it to be something because I knew it was the finale and a big build up to this point. I wanted things to be different with how they got to this new place that Ostium was sending them to. So again, you have these series of doors, and this is all a little different. But then having it be something from Jake's past, but not just his past, but more focal part of his life that he was so familiar with, but would be quite different when he actually got there.
And this, I wrote down the finding of the 5 copies. The
clones.
Were they really clones? Were they some kind of we're dealing with time travel here. Were they different versions, of him through time? And I wrote
or were they possibly even created by Ostium in some way too? That's that angle.
Exactly. So, and I agree that my mind would, and I think this is where his mind began to unravel a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever watched Venture Brothers?
No.
Okay.
I've heard of it, but I've never watched.
There's 2 kids in it. I mean, and it's a spoiler for anyone who hasn't watched the show but will. If you don't want that, then skip this part. But there's the 2 kids in it who get up to all the adventures with all the rest of the characters. But in one episode, it turns out that they often end up dying, and almost like what's his name in South Park, Kenny.
Oh, Kenny.
Yeah, it's almost to that point. And then it turns out that what the lab where the dad works, there's this like giant cloning thing, and there's just millions and millions of copies of them that just get, every time they die, a new one gets brought back out and stuff. Anyway, I was just thinking of that with cloning. I knew when I wrote this, it was very much right as I was going along, discovering the scene, and that was the strong image I had in there of going to the office where there's clearly no people there, it's really quiet, but Jake specifically leading to his spot, knowing he's going to see something that's just going to blow his mind once he gets to his area, his cubicle area. And then that was a solid image I had, was of these 5 clones all sitting at their desks, looking at these different news events of catastrophic things happening. And it's, stuff that's already happened in some previous episodes, and what Jake has been wondering is if it was actually true or not. And that's when we have Monica checking it on her phone in real time, looking at the news and discovering that it is real. So then it puts Jake's worry and guilt up to a whole new level as he really starts to feel that he is causing this now and causing these people to die. And that's, as you said, is when he starts to unravel. And if he was there alone, that probably would have been the end of it. He would have just become a puddle of goo and senseless insanity. But because Monica's there to kind of bring him back from the brink, they're able to keep going on, basically.
The real creep factor for me was when he noted that they were wearing suits and their hair was like his mother liked it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that was a chill. That was a chill.
It could be Ostium, since it knows a lot about his past, it's pulling that detail, from his brain or something and putting that in there. I'm also remembering how Monica actually touched them and how they felt kind of cold and clammy and like not real, but real at the same time.
Right. I didn't imagine them being ever alive, that they were just manufactured for that purpose.
They were just shells basically to sit there, yeah.
Exactly.
Skin mannequins.
And then I just have notes about the different disasters like you were talking about, and like the oil tanker was named the Mary Celeste, and
right,
just some other nice tiebacks to other episodes.
Which is that's partly Ostium kind of, because it's timey-wimey stuff, it kind of folds in on itself. But also reality is like that too. They love doing stuff like that. I mean, in 2022, the Titanic 2 is going to launch. And it's
exactly.
No one knows what's going to happen.
And the one news story is that Catalina was found empty.
Right.
Again kind of driving home that, Jake, did you really do this?
Right.
Did it happen, or did you cause it?
It's a real place, a heavily populated place, a vacation spot, a popular vacation spot for people who go in by boat. Also, they have a little airport right on the highest point of the island that people can actually just fly in on private planes for. And some people actually just come over because I did a little tour around there and took a bus all the way up to the airport there. And apparently they have some of the best cookies known around. They're these huge, like, plate-sized cookies, really thick, and apparently they told us that some people just fly in just for the cookie. They don't even go to see the town. Oh, and the other tip that I remember was they have bison on the island still, because they were from the days when the old westerns were shot and filmed with bison in the background, and then once they were done with them, the bison were all sent over to live in Catalina, where they wouldn't be hunted. I also have, when we have this big moment of Jake almost falling off the edge and Monica bringing back, it's, again, another kind of link in the chain of their relationship in some ways. It's them becoming even closer. And I wanted a reason to have them... I wanted to come up with a reason for them to kiss at the end. And I knew with them becoming closer and bringing them to the point here, as they go back then and realized they've kind of overcome this hurdle, this small battle has been won for them, and now they can go back and continue with their quest. Just before they pass through the door one last time back to Ostium, and they don't know what they're going to find, I wanted to kind of have a little strong moment between them. That's when they kiss for the first time. So it's just a kind of, we got through this together and now we're closer for it. But also this is the start of the next level of our relationship too, which I kind of always saw in my head was these two coming together, and this is the start of that. Then there's also the
scene.
Hmm?
The scene worked well.
Yeah, thank you. There's also the little bit where Jake sees the photo on his cubicle too of them kissing, which is a kind of fun play again with time stuff, and playing around with that and seeing what happens, and putting little tidbits in there that come from somewhere. I'm not sure where, but it just makes it more fun.
And then when they get back to Ostium, Jake makes the comment to Monica, Ostium and I go way back. So this was my first, I think, hint, possibly not intentional hint from you, that Jake maybe not remembers or hasn't forgotten, but knows more about Ostium than he thinks he knows, or that he is possibly has access to. Because it just seems like every so often he'll get a burst of new information about Ostium, like with the blackness and with the having to put things on the map table, and now he makes a comment, Ostium and I go way back. Sort of like, I don't know if he knows something, like he remembered something or got new information, or if it was just one of those feelings.
I think it's probably all of the above, as well as, one, it's a kind of a fun little joke, but also two, as he's becoming more comfortable and familiar with Ostium and more confident, he does feel he knows it better. He is learning it better. It is giving him this info that he wasn't able to do. And also, he's the kind of guy who does take risks, try things out. And so far, they worked out pretty well for him. So it's helping him gain further confidence. But I will say, you bringing that up too, it's not necessarily something I thought of when I was writing that, but in the huge long run leading up to the end of Ostium and all this stuff, it actually does all fit in there, which I didn't quite realize, and you helped bring that out. I can't really talk about it because it's many seasons away, and possibly in the spin-off books and the spin-off sci-fi series I want to write and stuff, but it does all kind of make sense now.
Okay.
So
and the final note I had is that there was no blackness.
Right.
Yeah,
that was...
Was it defeated?
Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't defeated so much at this point, because it does again show up in season 2. Pretty sure. Yeah. But Jake's gaining more control over it. But I think part of it too was, one, this was a different place, kind of different style of place they'd been to from the previous ones. It was formed from this crack, from this kind of a new creation. So again, the same rules didn't necessarily apply. There was no blackness to be taking a part in it. So that's why, one, I wanted to do that. But also I think it was because it was something so tied to Jake that he was stronger for it and was keeping it at bay, I think, too. It wasn't allowed into that area there, that space that was part of him. And also, I think
makes a lot.
Yeah, I think
that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. And I think also, because I haven't totally worked, I've mostly got to as of season end of season 4 now, going to season 5. I've mostly got it worked out what the blacknesses come from, at least specifically, but also I'm still kind of working out the overarching details. But as it is Ostium also playing a part in it, the clones are kind of serving as their own kind of attack at Jake and Monica in this episode, so that the blackness isn't necessarily needed, if you get what I mean.
As a plot element?
Yeah.
Or as a story element?
As a story element kind of thing, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's all of the above type of thing of that, yeah. The conflict in this episode, you have the clones in its own storyline, and you don't necessarily need the blackness.
Okay.
And that's all we have? Yep.
That is all I have for season 1.
All right. Any last thoughts about all of season 1 together?
Try not to blend in with season 2.
Yeah.
Because I want to say that I did have a theory. I think I had it formed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was by the second episode of season 2.
Okay, well, we'll save that for that.
Yeah, I have a very firm theory,
ideas,
and it's still possible. Yeah,
but I definitely wanted with each season, even though it was an ongoing story telling with each season, I wanted each season to still be a kind of standalone, its own little ball of story, and then you move on to the next ball of story, but it's all part of the same game.
Yeah, when we'll get to season 2, but when season 2 first came out, I'm like, what is going on? It's so different, but I'm like, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.